All right, let's dive into a classic. We're talking about Charles Dickens' Great Expectations. Now, this isn't just some dusty old book. It's an incredible story about dreams, big secrets, and what it actually means to be a so-called gentleman.
So, think about this for a second. What if you got everything you ever wanted, but it was all built on a lie? That's the huge question right at the center of this whole story. It's what our main character, Pip, has to wrestle with, and it completely messes with his ideas about money, class, and who he even is.
Okay, so let's meet our guy. His name is Philip Pirrip, but everyone just calls him Pip. He's an orphan, and his life is, well, it's pretty tough. He lives out in the marshlands with his really mean older sister and her husband, Joe Gardry, who's a blacksmith and a genuinely good dude. But Pip's quiet, simple life is about to get completely turned upside down, and it all starts with two meetings he will never, ever forget.
So the first encounter, picture this. Pip is all alone in this creepy old graveyard, and out of nowhere, an escaped convict grabs him. He's terrifying. He basically forces Pip to sneak him some food and a file to get his chains off. And Pip, he's scared stiff, but also feels kind of sorry for the guy, so he does it. This one little act of kindness, or maybe fear, is going to change everything. He has no idea.
Then comes the second meeting. This one's at a place called Satis House. It's this huge, decaying mansion where time has literally stopped. It belongs to this super strange rich woman named Miss Havisham, and that's where Pip meets Estella. She's beautiful, but she's also incredibly cold. See, Miss Havisham has basically raised her to break men's hearts. And when Estella makes fun of Pip for being, common, it hits him hard. For the first time, he feels ashamed of who he is, and this burning desire to become a gentleman just ignites inside him.
And this is really the core struggle for young Pip, right? You've got these two totally different worlds colliding. On one hand, you have Joe. He's everything that's good and loyal and real about Pip's life. But on the other hand, there's Estella. She represents everything he thinks he wants: money, class, being seen as important. And this battle, between where he comes from and where he wants to go, is going to tear him apart.
So, years go by, Pip's pretty much accepted he's going to be a blacksmith like Joe. And then, bam, everything changes. His whole world gets flipped on its head. This, my friends, is where the Great Expectation from the title finally makes its grand entrance.
Out of the blue, this London lawyer, a guy named Mr. Jaggers, shows up with just unbelievable news. Some secret benefactor has given Pip a huge amount of money, a fortune. But there's a catch. He has to drop everything, move to London, and get an education to become a proper gentleman.
Now, who do you think Pip assumes is behind all this? Of course, it has to be Miss Havisham. In his mind, it all makes perfect sense. This is her plan to make him worthy of Estella so they can get married. And this one single idea, this one assumption, is going to drive almost every single thing he does from here on out.
And just like that, Pip is off to London. He's ready to become this new person. But as he starts climbing that social ladder, something inside him starts to change. And it's not really a good change.
So in London, Pip learns all the fancy customs. He makes a new friend, Herbert Pocket, and he really starts living the high life. But the more money he gets, the more of a snob he becomes. He starts to get really embarrassed by his old life. And the worst part, he becomes ashamed of Joe, the one person who is always there for him. It's just heartbreaking.
So for a long time, Pip is living this dream life. He's got money, he's got status, and he's absolutely sure it's all leading him to Estella. And then, a moment comes when the ground is literally going to fall out from under him.
Get this, it's a dark and stormy night. No, really. Pip's in his apartment, and he hears these heavy footsteps coming up the stairs. Someone is coming to see him, and it's the last person on Earth he'd ever expect.
This is it, the moment of truth. Everything Pip thought he knew about Miss Havisham, about his future with Estella, it's all about to come crashing down. So, the big question is, who was his secret benefactor?
The person at the door? It's Abel Magwitch. Yeah, the convict from the graveyard. And he drops the biggest bombshell of Pip's life. Yes, Pip, dear boy, I've made a gentleman on you. It was him. He was sent to Australia, made a fortune, and spent every penny of it to turn the little boy who helped him into a gentleman. Pip is just floored, horrified.
His entire life as a gentleman, all that pride, all that snobbery, it wasn't paid for by some high society lady, it was funded by a criminal. The very identity he built, the thing that made him look down on good old Joe, came from a source he finds completely shameful. His entire world just shatters.
And that shocking moment, right there, is the beginning of the end for Pip's great expectations. At least his expectations of money and status. But it's also the start of a much more important journey. A journey to figure out what actually makes a person worthwhile.
I mean, you can really see his whole moral journey laid out here. It starts with him being ashamed of where he came from. Then it turns into this arrogant ambition in London. Then boom, the shocking truth hits him like a ton of bricks. And it's only after he's lost everything that he can start to figure out what's truly valuable.
What's amazing is what happens next. Pip's horror slowly turns into loyalty. He actually tries to help Magwitch escape. It doesn't work, and Magwitch ends up dying, and all the money's gone. Just like that, Pip has nothing. He gets super sick, and guess who shows up to take care of him? Good old Joe. And in that moment, sick and broken, Pip finally gets it. He finally sees that Joe, with his simple kindness and his loyalty, was the real gentleman the entire time.
And this is really the whole point of the book, isn't it? Pip's idea of a gentleman was all about wealth, status, marrying the right person. But what he learns, the hard way, is that being a true gentleman has nothing to do with money. It's about integrity. It's about loyalty. It's about humility. The stuff you just can't buy.
So, in the end, what Dickens is really telling us is that your real worth, it comes from who you are, not what you have. It's a lesson that was so important back then, and honestly, it's just as important today. Kindness and integrity, they matter way more than a big bank account.
And that kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on. Pip's whole life was twisted and defined by expectations, what he expected for himself and what he thought other people expected of him. So it really makes you think, doesn't it? Whose expectations are running your life? And are they even yours to begin with?